Hello, children. How are all of you doing? Hope all of you are doing great. Today, we will begin with the next lesson in our Magic Place text, that is My Lost Dollar, written by Stephen Leacock. A little information about the author. Stephen Butler Leacock was a Canadian teacher, a political scientist, and a humorist. He was the best known English speaking humorist in the world. He is known for his light humor along with criticisms of people's folly. I'll just tell you the story in short. Here, the writer Stephen Leacock shares a personal anecdote to explain how he feels about a friend, Todd, forgetting to repay $1 he had borrowed from him to pay for his taxi when he was about to leave on a holiday to the Bermuda on the 8th of April the previous year. He tries subtle ways of reminding his friend about the dollar. He is upset because he can't get over the fact that Todd owes him $1. It was not just Todd, but quite a few other friends who had forgotten that they owed him money, though they were just small amounts. Then he wonders whether he too had forgotten the debts he owed people. He makes a public request to all those he owe money to come forward and claim their dues from him. But that does not include the money lent to him at the bridge game or for a cool drink. He wants to start a wider movement towards honesty, reminding his countrymen that their country was built on honesty, or in other words, built on personal integrity of individuals. He goes with the saying that honesty is the best policy. So this is in short a summary about what we are going to be reading in this story about My Lost Dollar. So as I say, it is the personal experience of the author, and he tells us what he experiences when he lent $1 for his friend who was going away on a trip to the Bermuda. Okay, I will this lesson could be split up into 2 or 3 modules depending upon the explanation. And likewise, I will first read out the paragraphs, and then after each paragraph I will be giving you the explanation of the paragraph. Okay, so My Last Dollar, page 57. My friend Todd owes me $1. He had owed it to me for 12 months, and I fear there is little prospect of his ever returning it. I can clearly see whenever I meet him that he has forgotten that he owes me $1. He meets me in the same frank, friendly way as always. My dollar has clean gone out of his mind. I see that I shall never get it back. Okay, so now here the author is speaking about his experience, about how he owes, how his friend Todd owes him $1. And it all started like, he says that the previous year his friend happened to be going on a trip to the Bermudas, and so the author or Stephen had come to see his friend off as he was leaving to go on this trip. So as he was going into getting into a taxi, and afterwards he had to pay off the the fare for the taxi, he was short of $1. And so that dollar he had borrowed from the narrator or from the author who had accompanied him to see him off, maybe at the railway station or at the airport. So he says that now the author or Stephen is recollecting the fact that it's more than a year since Todd had taken this trip, and there was still no signs of returning of that $1 what Todd had borrowed from the narrator. And then he is wondering whether that dollar, whether Todd remembers about that dollar, or he has just clearly forgotten about that dollar what he had borrowed from the author or from the narrator. And then he's repenting over the fact that whether he will get it back. And so he says that I shall never get it back. He's repenting over the fact that he will not get his money back. So here in this first paragraph, we can understand that the narrator has lent money to his friend, and the amount is just a small amount, just a mere $1, and the narrator happened to be that character who would not forget about what what people owed him. He was he had this very sharp memory when it comes to money, and if people had borrowed from him, he was expecting that money to be returned back. But here, unfortunately, with an experience from his friend, he was wondering, even for a year had passed and still his friends did not show any signs of returning back that $1. Second paragraph. On the other hand, I know that I shall remember all my life that Todd owes me $1. It will make no difference, I trust, to our friendship, but I shall never be able to forget it. I do not know how it is with other people, but if any man borrows $1 from me, I will carry the recollection of it to the grave. So here the narrator tells us that he has this habit that if and when anybody borrows any money from him, whether it is a small amount or a big amount, he surely remembers about it. And he says that every time he does frequently meet his friend, and he says that even now also it will not make any difference for him with regard to their friendship. But he says that he has this one trait with him, that he will never forget about how much money people owed him. And he says that if any man borrows $1 from me, I will carry the recollection of it to the grave. And he says that he's got very sharp memory. If a person has borrowed a money and if he has not returned it, that memory he would carry it till the day he dies, or till the time he is put into his grave. He will remember about the fact that such and such person owed him some money. Third paragraph. Let me relate what happened. Todd borrowed this dollar last year on the 8th of April. I mentioned the date in case this should ever meet Todd's eye. Just as he was about to leave for Bermuda, he needed $1 in change to pay his taxi, and I lent it to him. It happened quite simply and naturally. I hardly realized it till it was all over. He merely said, "Let me have $1, will you?" And I said, "Certainly. Is $1 enough?" I believe, in fact, I know that when Todd took that $1, he meant to pay it back. He sent me a note from Hamilton, Bermuda, I thought when I opened it that the dollar would be in it, but it was not. He merely said that the temperature was up to nearly 100. The figure misled me for a moment. So now here in this third paragraph, the narrator goes on to give us the details as to how he happened to lend his friend Todd the money. And here he even mentions the date this had happened, the last year, the previous year, on the 8th of April. And it was such that his friend was leaving for a pleasure trip to Bermuda, and he had needed $1 in change to pay the taxi. So the narrator had accompanied his friend to see him off at the airport or at the railway station. It's not mentioned there, and it says that as he was paying off the taxi, it was about he was short of $1, and so he borrowed it from his friend who had accompanied him to see him off. And then he very, very gladly gives him that $1, and he also inquires as to whether $1 was sufficient enough. And then he says that when Todd took the $1, he meant to pay it back. So he says that the narrator, or Stephen, says that when his friend Todd had borrowed his money, or had borrowed $1, he would have had the intention of returning back that money. And then he says that as his friend was away on his vacation, he even received a note from Hamilton, Bermuda. So this friend Todd had gone to Bermuda, and he had gone to one so-called place as Hamilton, and he says that when he was there, he had sent him a postcard or an envelope. And when our narrator received this envelope, he was of opinion that maybe Todd had sent that $1 or had returned back the $1. So, but unfortunately it was not. He had just sent a note there telling him about how he was having a great time at the so-called place of Hamilton, and that he had also described about the temperature, and that the temperature was quite high. It was almost 100. He just mentions 100. So there people there in the European countries or in the West, the people, when they talk about temperature, they always talk in Fahrenheit. Okay, it's only we talk in terms of degrees. So the figure misled me for a moment. So he says that when the author read about this temperature, he was a little stunned for a moment. Next paragraph, or now moving on to page 58, second paragraph. Todd came back in 3 weeks. I met him near the train, not because of the $1, but because I really respect him. I felt it would be nice for him to see someone waiting for him on the platform after being away for 3 weeks. I said, "Let's take a taxi to the club," but he answered, "No, let's walk." We spent the evening together talking about Bermuda. I was thinking of the $1, but of course I did not refer to it. One simply cannot. I asked him what currency is used in Bermuda and whether the American dollar goes at par. I put a slight emphasis on the American dollar, but found again that I could not bring myself to make any reference to it. It took me some time. I see Todd practically every day at my club to realize that he had completely forgotten the $1. I asked him one day what his trip cost him, and he said that he had kept no accounts. A little later, I asked him if he felt settled down after his trip, and he said that he had practically forgotten about it. So I knew it was all over. So now here he says that the narrator had almost spent 3 weeks there, and then he had returned back. And he says that it was just out of respect that the narrator had gone to receive him at the railway station. And moreover, the narrator felt that it would be really nice for Todd to be seeing a familiar face after being away for 3 weeks. So as he met him, he was happy to see his friend back. And then he told that, okay, come on, let's take a cab and return home, for which his friend told that no, that was not needed. He would prefer to walk. And so they returned back walking. And the narrator goes on to say that the whole way they returned, they were talking about they did not take a cab. In fact, they returned walking. And then he says that they had spent the evening together. Okay, children, I'll stop my first module here.